We have lots of NHL news and rumors to take a look at here tonight, including a wild night in Pittsburgh. A wild game between the Penguins and Sabres have seen Crosby and Malkin both hit major milestones in their NHL careers. Plus, we have news from the NHL waiver wire. The Penguins have demoted Malkin McGroarty. We have MICHKOV scoring his first few NHL goals. We had a goalie goal last night in NHL in Minnesota, plus lots of rumors around the league as well, including Pittsburgh, Toronto, Vancouver, and Detroit. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we're doing another makeshift TSH studio video here today with the studio that I'm normally recording in, unfortunately needing a few upgrades here tonight. So hopefully we'll get back there tomorrow. It's been a crazy few days. So I certainly hope everybody's been kind of hopefully enjoying the different formats and different backgrounds you've been seeing. Just kind of going about various places in the house here to kind of record our videos. So lots of news to get to. Lots that happened last night. A bunch of stuff going on tonight. I don't want to be, making this video be too crazy long. So let's dive in and get started here. First up last night, of course, was a very emotional night in Columbus. The home opener for the Blue Jackets against the Florida Panthers. The Columbus Blue Jackets did a beautiful job of honoring Johnny GAUDREAU. Of course, Johnny's family had the strength to be there. His wife, kids, his parents, lots of other friends and family there as well. They had, of course, a great video tribute. The teams agreed to do a, on the opening face-off, they did a 13-second kind of tick down. Nobody touched the puck after the ref dropped the puck for 13 seconds. And then from there, also on that, the Jackets left his spot on the left wing open. So Sean Monahan was out. I believe it was Skelliter as the two forwards, but they left Johnny's spot open. So kind of saying that, I guess they're probably kind of hoping he's there in spirit. So they did a beautiful job honoring him. Sean Monahan, of course, scored an emotional goal. Of course, the team also raised to the rafters number 13 to honor Johnny. It's just a very emotional night. Very well done. But again, the tragedy of the GAUDREAU accident and loss of life here from Johnny and Matthew still very much being felt around the league. And certainly want to wish everything, hope their families doing as best they can under the circumstances. Nice to see them have the strength and ability to be there, to be able to go through that with the fan base. I know they're still very much grieving, but certainly, great to see that they are trying to be strong and be there to honor their very much loved Johnny GAUDREAU, who was a huge part of the hockey world and, of course, a very big family man. So great job in honoring him last night. Unfortunately, the Jackets did drop the game, but at the end of the day, that team has been through a lot, and they did the best they can against a really good team in a very emotional set of circumstances. Waivers news today as well. We have more players on waivers. Yesterday, the Hurricanes had Joaquin Ryan. He cleared, so he was returning from injury, so he can be reassigned. Today, the Hurricanes have Brendan Lemieux on waivers, and the Jackets have Dylan Gambrell. So difficult to say if either player will be picked up, but Lemieux and Gambrell on waivers today. We'll find out tomorrow afternoon if indeed they will be picked up or not. Lots of other injury updates, roster moves, etc. We'll quickly recap some of that stuff. The Red Wings have recalled Justin Hall. He will be in their lineup here in the next game. Vancouver Canucks today reassigned Aatu Räty to the American Hockey League. So he obviously had a chance to come up and play. Did a good job, I think, but he'll be heading back. And there was some speculation that they're going to be recalling Erik Brannstrom, who, of course, they had acquired in trade with the Avalanche not long ago when the season was first getting underway. At this point, I haven't confirmed that, but there was speculation he was going to be recalled. The Los Angeles Kings today recalled goalie Phoenix Copley under emergency circumstances. Of course, he was playing tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Darcy Kuemper out day to day. Not going well against LA Kings. The Kings are having another tough night. Of course, they had an 8-7 crazy, ridiculous game against the Senators the other day. And now tonight, I know as I recorded this, there was in the third period, it was 5-2 Leafs. And it was 5-0 for quite a stretch. The Kings got a couple late ones here to make it kind of interesting, but not a good road trip at all for LA. So we'll see If some pressure kind of comes along, then we're going to talk about LA a little bit further in the video. They're also without Joel Edmondson as well, who's now listed as non-roster. He is away from the team for personal reasons. Another note on Columbus last night, defenseman Erik Branson was injured. It didn't seem like it was a pretty, like it's not a good thing at all. Like it's going to be likely a longer term injury. Like they really needed that as well. In Ottawa, we get an update finally on Artem Zub. They did confirm it is a concussion. They're hoping we can return in about a week. He's already been out for a few days, so he'll definitely miss the game that they have Thursday, probably game on the weekend. And they're optimistic he'll be back next week. And they did indicate that for the Thursday game as well, it is possible that Linus Ullmark is, maybe he's not a given that he's going to miss the game. So we'll see. Otherwise, they may be back with Forsberg and Sogaard for another game, giving Ullmark a couple extra days to deal with the minor injury he was healing. And in Montreal, apparently, there's a possibility that Kirby Dach is going to be out tomorrow as well. That's a possibility too. Also in Columbus, not only Gudbranson, but apparently Elvis Merzlikins is going to be out for a little bit as well. That's expected to be short term. There were some people speculating that Elvis needed kind of like a mental reset, but they are calling it a upper body injury. So, I mean, in theory, I guess that could mean the same thing. Hard to say. Doesn't matter. Either way, he's going to be away from the team for a little bit of time here. The Edmonton Oilers have finally won a hockey game, defeating the Flyers last night in overtime. Matvei Michkov had a great game, scored his first ever NHL goal, got a second as well. Leon Draisaitl finally came through and scored an overtime winner. Leon was actually benched for a little bit of the game as well. Took a very unnecessary, undisciplined penalty. Wasn't playing well. Kind of looked like he was out there for a free skate at times, to be honest. Leon's making a ton of money, and I do expect better from him. And clearly the coach did as well, because, like I said, he sat him down and missed some shifts there. But ultimately, he got the big goal no matter most. Maybe that got him going. I don't know. But the Oilers had been playing like garbage. And for the most part last night, they kind of found a way, but it wasn't a great game. Hopefully they can build upon that and keep going. And last night we also saw a goalie goal. You don't get to see those very often, but in Minnesota versus St. Louis, Philip Gustafsson in the Wild scored a goalie goal. Obviously with the dying seconds of the period, the Blues had the goalie out. Gustafsson had a shot on net, had a chance to put her down and rip her down the ice, and he did so right down and between the pipes. So, yeah, nice goalie goal there. Not something you see very often. Gus the Bus scores into the empty cage. I'm sure Marc-Andre Fleury was somewhat envious of his goaltending partner. I'm sure he would have loved an opportunity to do that and would like the chance to do that this year before his career ends up winding down. And like I mentioned as well, a crazy night tonight with the Penguins and Sabres in Pittsburgh. Absolutely bonkers game. The Penguins end up winning the game 6-5 in overtime, but it's multiple major milestones. Both of these teams, you can make arguments, really don't look very good. They both have major concerns to start the season, in my opinion. But tonight was all about Crosby and Malkin. Early in the game, Crosby picked up an assist on a power play goal by Brian Rust, which gave him 600 career points. 1,600 career points, sorry. So that's the 10th player in NHL history to do that. So that's a major milestone for Sid. And then later in the game, Crosby got the overtime winner. But before that, Malkin scored in regulation, and that's goal number 500 for Malkin on his career. So another major milestone. For them to both do that on the same night's pretty cool as well. Of course, for the 500 goals, the whole bench cleared and kind of mobbed Malkin. Great moment. Like I said, for a game like that, to see two major milestones for their two top superstars, two greatest players, or two, besides Muriel, obviously the two greatest players in franchise history, to do that on the same night, it was just seemed like fate that they were going to find a way to find the victory here, and they did that. Tristan Jarry, terrible start, was yanked early, gave up 3 goals on 5 shots. Joel Blomqvist comes in, unfortunately doesn't do a whole lot better. He does give up a few goals, but ultimately a lot more shots, so I guess you could say he did better than Jerry, but that's a few times now that Jerry's had some rough games early in the season. I had speculated the other day that the Penguins might look for a Tristan Jarry trade if they can find it between Blomqvist and Nedeljkovic. At this point, considering how Jerry's, I know it's early, but if this can't continue, or like they're just not going to have any chance. And the Sabres, my God, the Sabres. Rough start for them. I mean, like I said, I had concerns over the Sabres coming into the year that they just didn't do enough. This team is too much the same, and a little bit of moves that they did make just wasn't enough to push the needle, and they're struggling early. It can get late real fast. Just ask the Ottawa Senators, and so far they're 2-1 on the season. But like teams like Buffalo and Detroit, they can't afford to have these bad starts. And the Sabres are certainly in a bad spot. But a crazy, fun, wild game there tonight between the Penguins and the Buffalo Sabres. Before we jump into the rumor mill, though, there was a news story today from TSN investigative journalist Rick Westhead. And this is another very concerning, very serious story, very serious topic. There is another scenario. Now, he was supposed to have more details on the news tonight, which I haven't had a chance to listen to, so I'll probably update this story in a video tomorrow. But for tonight, there's a new person, a new female, coming forward claiming that in 2014, in November, that she was raped by 8 players in the Ontario Hockey League. And it took place at one of the players' billet's place that he was staying at. Now, we don't know a whole lot of details. She had gone to local police, and that's what Rick Westhead's story so far was going to be on the news. He was leaving the rest of it for the broadcast, saying what was happened when she went to local police. So, I mean, considering it was 2014, that's 10 years ago. We don't know who any of these people are. We don't know what team it was. So you can't even look back at rosters or try to, which is probably not really the most, rational thing to do, because you really still can't put names to, to what happened here. And again, these are accusations that have not been proven in court. Just like the other players that are kind of banished from the NHL right now, as much as things, we've seen and heard enough evidence that it really doesn't look good for those lads. But, so like I think a lot of people are assuming guilt in that case, and it's not always fair to to assume guilt. They are technically innocent until proven guilty, but in that case, it looks bad. It really does. There's lots of evidence that has been presented through the investigations that have been made public that it doesn't look good. In this case, we don't know much of anything else besides the fact that the accusations have been made. So I said, as the details on the story emerges, and as I get to listen to Rick Westhead's story, which will likely air between CTV News and TSN tonight, I'll likely update this story tomorrow, but just be prepared that there could be another sexual assault case coming that might have impact on NHL players. We don't know, because we don't know who the alleged perpetrators are here in this case. So, but given the fact that there's 8 of them, 10 years ago, you'd have to think that with the number of players that come out of those leagues that make it to the NHL, that there's a possibility there could be some. We'll have to wait and see. So we'll update this story, as I mentioned. So just a real concern. We really got to stop hearing about this stuff. I can't believe the amount of stories. And it's a long time ago, but it's crazy to think just how bad the culture is and how many of these scenarios that we've probably never heard about because the victim never came forward. It's a sad state of affairs. It really is. On the rumor mill, as I mentioned as well, we talked about Pittsburgh and goaltending being an issue. There's certainly other teams out there that are struggling as well. And, obviously, the red flags are going off here, what we might see. One is Detroit. There's speculation from Larry Brooks of the New York Post, speculating that the Red Wings get off to a slow start. And so far, it's only been a few games, but it's slow start so far, but it's going to have to be a bigger sample size. But he suggests that they could go the route of a coaching change, which to me would not be shocking. I had said in my season opening predictions that if Detroit started slow, that Lalonde was going to probably be the first coach let go. So he's speculating that the replacement could be Joel Quenneville. Basically saying that Yzerman needs to consider this, that eventually Quenneville is going to be hired here by somebody. Regardless of what you think about what happened in the past, he was a terrific coach and has gotten results everywhere he's been. Now I seen another, this was just social media post earlier, suggesting that the LA Kings might want to look at this too. Rob Blake, to me, is in the final year of his contract. He's got Jim Hiller, who I know they just made, they had as a basically your replacement temporary coach last year. You get the full-time gig over the summer. They've had a bad start. Like I said, they've gone through Ontario now. They had an 8-7 loss to the Senators. It was currently 5-2. I don't know what the final score is going to be tonight, but they've given up at least 13 goals in 2 games. Goaltending has been an issue. Kumper has not been good. You get Riddick and Copley in there. They haven't been much better. Something's got to give. The decor back there without Drew Doughty looks horrendous. And they're just not getting enough secondary and primary scoring really up front. So there's lots of concerns there. And to me, it's more than just a coaching change in LA. To me, I think there's some roster moves to be made as well. So for me, for Rob Blake, I think considering how new Jim Hiller is, I think a couple of trades might be more inclined first before they go the route of a coaching change. But in Detroit, I do think it's much more likely that we see a coaching change first. So as I think they've made lots of moves there. I don't agree with all of Yzerman's moves. I'm not completely sold on the Yzer plan or whatever we're calling it here. All this far into the rebuild, I don't like a lot of what he's done there. And I've been pretty open and opinionated about that. But, I do think that a coaching change in Detroit, if they don't get high results quickly, is very much likely. Could it be Quenneville? Let me know what you think on that possibility. In Vancouver, Dave Pagnotta was speculating that Brock Besser's next contract is something that obviously the Canucks and his reps are talking about, and that, if he's on pace for 30, 40 goals and has a decent start to the year, that they're likely going to keep negotiating. It doesn't seem like the season being underway is really a deterrent for them, and that there's a lot of speculation that his next contract could start with a 9. That's a big number. Now, of course, that's all fine and dandy. He's earned that kind of money by being a solid goal scorer here, but is that going to cost them a player elsewhere that they may not be able to afford anymore? Like the Canucks are in a position where they haven't had a great start to the season either. Besser's doing okay himself, so I don't know how Alvin and Rutherford are going to be about this. Are they going to want to hesitate and hold on here, not because of Besser himself, but because of the team? It's difficult to say, but no matter what, like a $9 million player joining the mix here with some of the other contracts they have lined up, like Miller and Pettersson and Hughes and all that, like they need more out of Pettersson too. Like he's still kind of playing along like he was last year, which isn't great. So we'll see what happens here in Vancouver. But Brock Besser contract extension talks have been well underway. A lot of talk is going to start with a 9. And in Toronto, we had talked before about there was some degree of appetite to re-sign John Tavares, and there was some conversations that have taken place. Jake McCabe and Matthew Nye's conversations are also very much in the mix there. We saw Max Pacioretty scratched tonight for the first time. So obviously, that's kind of, and at least had a really good game without him. Like he himself had said he wasn't happy with his game in the last game. I don't think that means much of anything for Pacioretty's future, considering the contract he signed. I don't have any concerns they're going to move him right now. But, I guess if they're, because given how they did his contract, I don't know that it's going to be, real movable, real easy anyway. So I think the only concern here is that over time, we know the Leafs are probably going to have to make a trade involving at least one forward, and maybe the type of forward or type of player they try to bring back in a deal might change. Timothy Liljegren actually get to play tonight, so we'll see how that affects his standing within the organization, within the team. That could either increase trade chatter, because if it's more of a showcase, certainly interest will pick up. At the same time, it could pick up internally if they're quite pleased with them. So hard to say, but lots of stuff going on in Toronto with some contract extension talks. Pacioretty scratched. Liljegren finally getting in the lineup, so obviously lots of moving parts on that front. And of course, as I mentioned with Pittsburgh earlier, Rutger McGroarty sent to the minors today. Certainly a lot of people are kind of chuckling over this a little bit. There's lots of talk about why McGroarty wanted out of Winnipeg, but the general belief was that the Jets would not guarantee him an NHL roster spot and wanted him to be able to spend some time in the minors. He did not want that, and there's some people I've seen talking today saying, well, maybe he just didn't like Winnipeg. I don't know. We heard enough about how he wanted NHL time, and considering the relationship with Cutter Gauthier and how everything went down there, I honestly believe that that was the case. We've seen and heard enough in how he answered the questions that he wanted the guaranteed NHL roster spot. Now that he's signed a contract, it's out of his control. They can send him down, and he has nothing to say about it. If he refuses to report, well, he's just going to get himself in trouble, get himself suspended, and obviously we know that that's not in his best interest. So clearly a different scenario right now, but considering how everything played out in Winnipeg, I think some people are kind of saying, hey kid, maybe the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and maybe you weren't as ready as you thought you were. He kind of looks bad now, right? So certainly I'd like to know what everybody thinks about this. The Penguins will be visiting Winnipeg soon as well, which means he's likely not going to be in the lineup, because I'm sure Jets fans were probably hoping to see him to kind of get an idea how things went, but ultimately not something we're going to see after all here. So that is all your NHL news and rumors for tonight. Let me know your thoughts on everything discussed down in the comments. We'll talk about it further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.